Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. I created today's card for Brutus Monroe, and I'm going to be doing a lot of work with these awesome aqua pigment paints. This was my very first time working with a liquid watercolor, and it's very different from what I'm used to, but I actually really liked it, and I can see myself using these a lot in the future. So the three colors that I'm putting into my tray are turquoise, blue, and blue-violet. Because I had never worked with a liquid watercolor before, I thought that I would do a really easy background panel to kind of acquaint myself with the paints. Now, I didn't water down these paints at all. The only water that I used for this background was to wash off my brush every now and then. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I was laying down this paint was that it was very streaky, and I think that that's just because of how much paint I had on my brush, and I didn't really need to use that much paint for the first layer, so that's one thing that I learned while I was doing this. Honestly, I didn't really mind that streaky look though. I thought that it gave it a really nice texture. So after laying down the first layer of paint, I did dry my panel really well, and then I started on the second layer. For that second layer, I did try to not have as many streaks because I wanted to see if I could control it, and I was able to control it a lot better with the second layer. Once that second layer of paint was completely dry, I took this snowflake stencil from Brutus Monroe and I taped it down onto my background panel, and then I went over that with some Nouveau Moonstone glimmer paste. I was very, very gentle when I laid down this paste because some of those snowflakes are pretty intricate, and if you're not careful you can kind of lift up the stencil in areas and then your paste will go underneath, and that's not what I wanted, so I was just very careful when I laid down this paste. Once the stencil was completely filled in, I removed the stencil while the paste was still wet, and then I quickly washed that stencil off with just some warm water, and that just ensures that none of that paste will stick onto that stencil. Next, I took out the Snow Friends stamp set from Brutus Monroe, and I stamped one of the snowmen from that onto some Bristol Smooth paper, and I stamped that with Raven Detail ink. Now that I had gotten a little bit more familiar with these aqua pigment paints, I thought that I would try to paint this little snowman with them. I still kept the painting really simple because, like I said, I'm really new to this kind of paint. So in the beginning, while I'm still learning them, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Hopefully, as I keep working with them, I'll keep learning about them and I'll eventually be able to do more complicated things. So I painted that hat using the blue-green color, but I actually decided to change that, and you'll see when I do that. And I used orange for the nose, and I'm using red for the scarf. So for that scarf, I started out with a light wash of the red color, and then I came back in with the same red color and deepened up some of the areas to add some shading and details. And I did the same thing with the hat and with the nose. For the buttons, I used the black aqua pigment, and then I took that black and I watered it down with quite a bit of water, and I used that color to do the shading on all of the snow. Now, it was at this point that I realized that I wanted the hat to be a different shade of blue because I wanted it to match my background a little bit better, so I went over it with the blue color. For the sentiment on my card, I took out this stamp from the Snow Friends stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that with Versamark ink onto some Basil Licorice Twist cardstock. I did go over my paper with my powder tool so that I wouldn't have any issues when I embossed, and then I embossed this with Brutus Monroe Alabaster White Embossing Powder. So now that I have all of the elements of my card created, I'm going to start putting it together. I popped up that background panel onto an A2 size card base with some foam tape, and then I took this little snowman, which you see that I die cut out with a circle die, and I popped that up on top, and then I also popped up the sentiment. So you'll see here that it took me quite a while to figure out the placement of all of these elements. I wanted to leave this in the video so that you can see that I don't get it perfect the first try. It takes me quite a bit of time to figure out exactly how I want the card. Next, I took out my white gel pen and I added some highlights and details to the snowman. And then I decided that I wanted a little bit of color behind the snowman in the background. So I took the Aqua Pigments back out and I took that gray color that I created and I just added a very light wash of color behind him. Once I finished laying down that first layer of color, I decided that I wanted to deepen it up in some areas. So I added some more black to that gray color that I made and I laid down a second layer of color. I took out my Copic multi-liner and I extended the lines of the ground underneath the snowman, and I thought that that just grounded him a little bit better and made it look a little bit less like he's floating. I grabbed my white gel pen again and I added some dots of snow in the background. To finish up this card, I pulled out my Wink of Stella glitter brush because, you know, this card needed some more glitter. So I went over the snowman and I also went over the snow underneath him with that to give it a little bit of sparkle. After that, this card was all done, and here's a closer look and you can see all of that beautiful glitter and shine on the background and on the snowman. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card featuring products from Brutus Monroe. All of the supplies that I used for today's card can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching today and you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I come out with new card videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you and I hope you have a great day today.